Storm warning, Crawford County. Let's go live now.
We don't have any reports of damage, but we've got an atmosphere that's very volatile.
All right, Jacob, here's the discussion.
And now, the Spring Severe Weather Special, sponsored by Mountain Grove Golf Course and Erie Homebuyer.
Good evening. I'm meteorologist Tom Atkins. Thank you for joining us for the Spring Severe Weather Special, brought to you by your weather authority. Tonight, meteorologists Craig Flynn and Jacob Matthews will join me in taking a look back at the 40th anniversary of the May 31st, 1985 tornado outbreak that greatly impacted our area.
Areas that saw significant damage from the outbreak were in Erie, Crawford, and Warren counties. We'll review the storm's impact from the residents who remember the storm that day.
Just an hour and a half south of Erie, the largest tornado, an F5, the only F5 on record in the state of Pennsylvania. We will revisit that tornado, but first we go to meteorologist Tom Atkins in Albion, Erie County.
Tornadoes spawned in the savage spring storms left behind a random wake of devastation. They flattened small towns in northwestern Pennsylvania, tossed trucks like toys near Toronto, and spread misery to central Ohio. In one ferocious stroke, a tornado ripped the town of Albion, Pennsylvania to pieces.
That's what you would have heard on the news 40 years ago as an F4 tornado ripped through this town of Albion. But what wasn't leveled was Shirley Bielak's house across the street behind me, standing to this day. Bielak recalls the events of that day like it was yesterday.
Just sat down to eat supper and the siren started blowing and it got black, really pitch black. And I don't know what made me think of it, but I said, there's a tornado coming.
And it did come. Bielak's family headed towards the basement.
And just as I reached for the basement door, the door was sucked out of my hands and stuck into the wall, and I could just watch everything go out the windows in the house. And I saw the house next door drop. Then after that, it got quiet. I mean, like, you could have heard a pin drop. And then I think the next thing that I remember the most is the screaming, all the screaming of people that realized what had happened.
And what happened was an F4 tornado that leveled most everything in its path, except Bielak's home.
When you looked around, it was just demolished. I attribute the fact that our house is still here and standing to the fact that all our doors and windows were open, where other people beside us and everywhere was all closed up and basically their houses just exploded and crumbled.
Bob Santos was a volunteer for the Red Cross. He remembers entering the town for the first time.
I couldn't believe what I saw. It was surreal. This was not movie time. Piles and piles of just smashed houses. But probably the thing that really impacted me, and I still remember it, is the smell. It was a smell that made me feel real uneasy. If you ask me what it smelled like, I don't know. But 4 decades later, that's the first thing that pops into my head.
And now we move to eastern Erie County for the other F4 tornado that hit Erie County. I call it the forgotten tornado. It was more rural. It came across that field, and you can see over here just the reminiscence of the foundation of the house that it took away. The house was fairly quickly rebuilt. It's a little farther back from the road. It's now the home of Ember Thomas, who was 8 years old when the tornado hit. Thomas also has vivid memories of that day.
I remember the TV show. We were watching Wheel of Fortune. It came across the bottom of the screen, and it said, tornado touchdown in Albion. And we're like, oh, that's a long ways from here, you know, that's not gonna affect us at all. And then all of a sudden our power cut out. So we all got up and we went to the windows. And when we looked through them, it was just this big, like, rolling, all I can think of is it was rolling black cloud across the road in those woods over there. So my grandmother, when she got up and she seen it, she said, that's a tornado.
Okay.
And she's like, we gotta go to the basement. We all like formed a pile, like a football pile. I was underneath, then we heard the noise. And it was like, you could hear the nails kind of ripping. Glass was shattering. The loud that train sound. And when it went over, all of a sudden we had all daylight. Everything was gone. The whole house, it ripped it right off the foundation. There was nothing left.
We're on Route 89 north of Corey by this cemetery where the tornado passed eastward on its track to New York State. The funnel was over 4 football fields wide. It stayed on the ground for approximately 30 miles. It lasted for 30 minutes.
When we came back home the next day or the day after, we went over east of 426 on some of the back roads over there that got hit in that area, and there were people standing alongside the roads trying to get money. They had tin cans in their hands because their houses had been blown away.
Wow.
I felt bad for them.
We came to the town of Adamsville here in southwest Crawford County. What's known as the Atlantic tornado began its 56-mile journey across Crawford County into Forest County. And the only building left standing in this town was this Presbyterian church. So we visited some people from around the area and got their accounts of what happened on that fateful day.
If I looked northwest, I could see a tornado. It wasn't real dark or anything. It was kind of like, but I could tell I looked like it was coming over our neighbor's house, but it was really north of us, about a half a mile or a quarter of a mile.
I saw the sky look so funny. It was kind of pink, and well, then I saw trees and everything flying through the air.
I told the kids and everybody just wait in the basement, walked outside, and we had the big AT&T tower just up on the hill. It was gone. Everything was just obliterated. We had a brand new fire truck. It was 4 months old. It was smashed. The fire station was totally gone.
I actually seen the tower fall. There was just like a big white cloud. I didn't see anything in it. There was no noise at our place. After it was over, it was amazing to me how silent everything was. There were no birds singing. It was just complete silence. And I was looking out the garage window when that cloud passed and the tower was there in my vision, and it just went down to the ground.
It couldn't have been any more than even 60 seconds. It was so quick that it came.
We have a lot of blessings to be thankful for because it could have been much worse than it was. I did have an aunt and uncle that were lost in the tornado. But other than that, I hope that I never have to go through it again.
40 years later, the memories of that horrific day still stand fresh in the minds of the people that survived it. This memorial in Albion is a testament of those that perished here. Stay with us. We'll be back with more stories of the May 31st, 1985 tornado outbreak. Welcome back. We just visited 2 F4 tornadoes in Erie County. Jacob Matthews will take a look at Warren County.
From Albion all the way here to the small town of Tidioute, PA, an F3 tornado struck down, causing no fatalities, but 8 reported injuries. Now, it might be raining here now in Tidioute, PA, but this weather pales in comparison to what happened on that fateful day. Ron and Kathy Hodge live in Youngsville, Pennsylvania. Kathy is a longtime weather watcher for us at Jet 24 and Fox 66. Her husband, Ron, worked for the Warren County Sheriff's Office back in 1985 and recalls arriving at the scene shortly after the tornado hit.
Yeah, I got there probably about 8:30, and I started down about 10 after. And they called me back to the office because somebody needed a ride, and it was Doc Rice, our commissioner. And he wanted to ride down and look around, so I said, all right, I'll be back and get you. So I went back and we went down, and most of the damage that we seen that night was right on 62, going towards Marionville. The whole left side of the hillside, which would be the south side of Tidioute. That's where all the damage that we seen was the trees, the houses, And of course, the trailer was on the other side, got knocked over the road, which is probably 150 yards away. They went for a ride.
The couple living in that mobile home were in their 70s at the time the tornado sent them tumbling across Route 62. Both survived. Luckily, there were no fatalities that day, but the destruction was massive.
You just couldn't believe it. You thought you were watching a horror film. Devastated Tidioute and Kane. There was quite a bit devastation in both towns.
Had never seen any devastation like it. I mean, you see it on TV down south, out west, whatever, and you never think that it would happen around this area. But when you get firsthand experience, it's something. To know that people actually lived through that.
The path of the tornado began on the north side of town, then split off shortly after.
It come down off of Babylon Hill, which is on the north side of Tidioute. Then it come across and up through the south side and across the hillside this way. Then it went up over the hill. When it hit Tidioute, they said they couldn't even see the funnel cloud until it left Tidioute.
And approximately 10 minutes prior to the tornado hitting, they'd actually canceled it. So we kind of had gone our way thinking there wasn't going to be any storm, and then all of a sudden, here it comes. The water was out of the riverbed. Trees were bending parallel to the ground and stood back up like nothing had happened. It was alarming. It was fast. My dad's garage was across the river, his construction garage, and it was completely wiped out. The Twin Kiss was wiped out, and as soon as it was over, there was just the strangest calm, and then everything went crazy. Fire alarms and people running everywhere, and it was pretty awful.
The path of the F3 tornado went from Tidioute, PA, up here to Heart's Content, located in the Allegheny National Forest.
When it hit the ground, it was on the ground for 22 miles. Usually they go up and down, up and down. They were on the ground for 22 miles.
And the 13 counties where the tornado happened were all declared a state disaster area. The town of Kane reported 4 deaths from the tornado, and the town of Tionesta reported 7 deaths.
It said it lasted, like Tidioute one, I guess it said it lasted like 10 seconds.
Oh, wow. 10 seconds on a Friday night left the small country town reeling, but recovery was done rather quickly.
Everybody got themselves back together and most of them rebuilt, which was good, you know. It's such a small community anyway, you know, and moved on from there.
The graphic you see behind me is a graphic of all the reported tornadoes on that day, including the F3 tornado that struck southern Warren County. Now, even though it is more frequent for tornadoes to touch the ground on flatter land, that does not mean tornadoes cannot form over rougher terrain, which in this case would be Warren County. You just need the ingredients for a tornado to really form, including warmth and moisture. And you can see a lot of warmth and moisture was in this green shaded area. And Warren County is included, or at least part of Warren County is included in that area. So there was a lot of warmth and moisture and a difference in wind direction from the ground up. You had a westerly wind flowing in, and there was cooler air in that part of the atmosphere, and you had a southerly flow near the ground with all of that warm air. Now, the difference in wind direction can lead to horizontal rotation in the middle of the atmosphere, like what you see right here. And with the rising air from the ground up, thanks to all of the heat on the ground, any lift will allow that horizontal rotation to become more vertical, resulting in a tornado, as you see right here. This proves that tornadoes can form with all the heat and moisture and all that lift and instability despite the rough terrain.
Thank you, Jacob. That was an F3 tornado in Warren County that he just reported on. After the break, we're going south of Crawford County with Craig Flint, and the only F5 tornado in the outbreak. Welcome back to the show. Now we take a look at the granddaddy of them all. We've seen 2 F4s, an F3, but how about the only F5 east of the Mississippi for many years?
Thank you very much, Tom. We are in Wheatland, Pennsylvania, about an hour and a half south of Erie. This site, the former Sawhill Tube site, is the site of the one and only F5 tornado to ever hit the state of Pennsylvania. An EF5, the highest ranking a tornado can achieve. Less than 0.01% of tornadoes that occur in the United States reach EF4, EF5 status. These beasts of nature are extremely rare. In fact, the last EF5 tornado to hit the United States was in Moore, Oklahoma on May 20th, 2013. Not only is this particular F5 tornado the only one on record in the state of Pennsylvania, it also holds another distinction.
It's really interesting that, from where we sit right now, just east a little ways into Mercer County is the furthest east an F5 has ever made it in the United States. And that's how rare that was.
Paul Wetzel is now the chief meteorologist at our sister station WKBN-TV in Youngstown, Ohio. He was 10 years old on May 31st, 1985, when the tornado came through, and he recently sat down with me to recall that fateful Friday 40 years ago.
What I remember from that is I can remember being outside in the yard watching the wind blow the trees, and our trees were just rolling over. And at the same time, I can remember looking north, and obviously the wind was blowing on us, seeing the green, that dark emerald green. And that basically, now I know, was hail, in the front core of that. But then it went dark as night. And that was, of course, the debris from the tornado and everything else involved with that storm.
For tornado genesis, everything has to come together perfectly at the exact same time, which makes tornado formation very difficult.
It's actually amazing that tornadoes even form. For everything that has to come together, for especially big tornadoes. Yeah. We get these quick little spin-ups all the time, and we all know about those. We get those more often around here. To get that whole tornado process of the big ones, a lot of stuff has to come together, as we know.
Everything did come together at the right time on that Friday as the tornado touched down just to the west of Newton Falls, Ohio, rapidly intensifying in both size and scope. The tornado was a quarter-mile wide as it engulfed Newton Falls. The path of destruction continued through Niles, Ohio, and on to Hubbard, Ohio, near the Pennsylvania state line, where a 10-year-old Paul Wetzel was watching.
So, as a 10-year-old, we gathered in the car to go, back then you're taking pictures, it's newspaper. So we went to see the damage. So I saw the direct aftermath of that as it was unfolding that afternoon. And again, back to a psychological standpoint of me, that traumatized me. I mean, it really did. And I think that really put that drive of fear of severe weather in me.
The tornado then crossed into Pennsylvania, ripping through Wheatland and continuing east into Mercer County before dissipating just west of I-79. All told, the tornado was on the ground for over an hour, traveled 50 miles, and unfortunately killed 18 people. David Kostka is one of the lives lost 40 years ago. His story is one of heroism and self-sacrifice. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friend. And he didn't necessarily know these children, right?
Dave Kostka lived here in Farrell, close to where this monument is. He was a volunteer coach for the Little League. Farrell and Wheatland share a Little League team at the time. There's ball fields down in Wheatland where the tornado went through. He was there the day the tornado went, and he saved the lives of 2 children. He covered them with his body so that they would not be injured by the tornado. Unfortunately, he lost his life in that process. So he willingly made that sacrifice so that those 2 young people could live. They're still around. They may not live in the local community. They were interviewed about 10 years ago. But this monument was erected here as a testament to his courage and his self-sacrifice and giving up his own life to save the lives of 2 young people.
While David Kostka's sacrificed his life, his story serves as a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is a light. And for those 2 young children whose lives were spared 40 years ago, David's story is the light. And life goes on in Newton Falls, Niles, and Wheatland, Pennsylvania. But the tornado has left an everlasting mark in the minds of those who survived the one and only F5 tornado in the state of Pennsylvania.
It's definitely a benchmark event for us here. I mean, it's the one we talk about. It's the blizzard of '93 or 1950. You know what I mean? It's the tornado of '85, and everyone.
Incredible story, Craig, and to think the farthest east an F5 has ever hit in the United States.
Yeah, pretty incredible. Just an hour and a half south of Erie, and you know, F5 damage, especially EF5 damage, is very distinct. And one of the most common questions I get is, will there ever be an F6?
Right.
And the short answer is no, because you got to remember the enhanced Fujita scale is a damage scale. It's not necessarily measuring wind speed like the Saffir-Simpson does with a hurricane.
Right.
So this is ranking the damage. Well, with EF5 tornadoes,
nothing left.
There's nothing left to measure. So there will never be an F6 ranking because an F5 just wipes it all out.
That's right. It'd have to go underground or something crazy like that. Thanks so much. Great story. And of course, stay with us, folks. We'll be back after the break with some final thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us as we've taken a look back at this historic Pennsylvania tornado outbreak. I want to thank the folks in Albion and Corey for their comments and experiences that they've relayed to us.
And a special thanks to our sister station WKBN in Youngstown and the weather department for all their great insight. Chief Meteorologist Paul Wetzel, big help for putting that story together.
Absolutely.
And another special thanks to our weather watcher, Kathy Hodge, and her husband, Ron Hodge, for providing what they remember about the tornado that occurred in southern Warren County.
And here are the basics as far as when you take shelter. A watch means simply watch out. Conditions are favorable for the formation of tornadoes, but a warning is when you take action. That means a tornado has been spotted or is indicated by radar. And we want to thank you, the viewers, for watching our show as we live up to our mandate of protecting lives and property. We'll see you, rain or shine, down the road.